are some crimes that feel like they could only come out of a twisted screenplay, where love turns into obsession and the people you trust most become your worst threat. This case. It has everything: 3 relationships, 2 divorces, 4 people, and 1 life sentence. And at the heart of it, a veterinarian, a charming doctor, a hitman with a conscience, and a plot that would make even seasoned detectives shake their heads. This is the true story of Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel, and how a murder-for-hire plot spiraled into betrayal, surveillance, and tragedy. Valerie McDaniel was one of those people everyone seemed to love. Smart, successful, and deeply passionate about animals. A straight-A student, valedictorian, and eventually, a veterinarian who built her own clinic from the ground up. Her life on paper looked perfect: wealthy background, nice cars, fancy wine, and a loving family. And like many fairy tales, it started with a promising romance. She met Marion Mac McDaniel while studying. They clicked instantly, both intelligent, ambitious, and driven. They married, started a business together, and from the outside, everything seemed idyllic. But behind that polished exterior, reality slowly began to fray. Owning a business is stressful, and the strain started to show in their relationship. The long hours took a toll. They rarely spent quality time together. And when they tried to start a family, the heartbreak of infertility added another layer of stress. In 2008, they adopted a daughter, hoping it would bring them closer. But that's not how it went. Shortly after, Valerie got a call from a stranger. A woman claimed she'd been sleeping with Mac, and he wasn't just cheating with her. She rattled off a list of names. Valerie was devastated. Mac admitted to everything. And in a surprising turn, Valerie gave him another chance, but trust, once broken, rarely heals. And it didn't take long before Mac was cheating again. Still, Valerie stayed, not because she didn't know better, but because she loved her daughter and didn't want to risk shared custody. Eventually, though, she emotionally checked out. The marriage, by her own admission, became a formality. And that's when he entered the picture. Leon Jacob, the son of a neighbor, a man who oozed confidence, flaunted his looks, and as Valerie would later say, thought he looked like Bradley Cooper. And you know what? Maybe he kind of did. Bright eyes, dark wavy hair, a doctor, 8 years younger than Valerie, and charming as hell. She said she didn't want to be a divorced woman, but the combination of Mac's infidelity and Leon's attention changed everything. By the end of 2014, she filed for divorce. By 2016, she was free. Valerie moved out with her daughter into a luxury apartment. She felt like she had a fresh start. Leon moved in not long after. Friends said she was glowing, happier than she'd been in years, but Mac, her ex, was worried. And his concern, it wasn't jealousy, it was about Leon. Mac described him as too slick, too confident, too unknown to be around his daughter. And he wasn't wrong to worry, because Leon Jacob had a past. Born in New Jersey, Leon's life had its share of twists. After his father died, he eventually moved to Houston and later studied medicine in the Caribbean. He graduated in 2005, but what followed wasn't exactly a noble medical career. He bounced from residency to residency, 7 in total, and he was booted from nearly all of them, either for lying about his experience or simply lacking basic skills. His arrogance made things worse. He didn't take instruction well. He thought he was better than everyone else, and it wasn't just professional issues. Leon had been married once before too, 2 sons, 12 years of marriage. But his ex-wife described their relationship as a nightmare, full of emotional abuse and control. After their divorce, Leon was charged with stalking her. He claimed he just wanted to talk to his kids. But the relentless calls and threats told a different story. Then came Megan Verica's. They met at a hotel she worked at, started dating, and soon moved in together. Megan thought she'd found someone solid, good-looking, ambitious, and sweet. But once they moved to Houston, Leon's mask slipped. It began with verbal abuse, then physical. Megan said he hit her repeatedly, suffocated her once with his hand over her mouth. Terrified, she kicked him out. And just like before, Leon retaliated. Calls, threats, harassment. Only this time, Megan went to the police. In early 2017, Leon was charged with assault and stalking. And this right here is where the story takes its darkest turn. Leon knew that if Megan testified, his career would be over. No medical license, no future, and he couldn't let that happen, so he made a decision. He was going to make sure Megan never made it to the courtroom. So by early 2017, Leon Jacob was cornered. His ex-girlfriend Megan Vericas had filed charges against him for assault and stalking, and his trial was coming up fast. His lawyer told him point-blank, if Megan testified, it was game over. He could lose his medical license permanently. His reputation, already shaky, would be toast. And that's when Leon decided he had one option left. Make sure Megan never took the stand, so he reached out to a guy he knew, someone he thought could make his problem disappear. A man he believed was capable of murder, but the irony here, the hitman Leon hired wasn't a killer at all. His name was Taz, a former soldier with no interest in violence anymore. Leon knew him only as Zach, a name Taz made up on the spot. And what Leon didn't know was that Taz had no intention of hurting anyone. Instead, when Leon laid out his murderous plan, Taz made a very different decision. He decided to save a life, not take one. Leon had it all mapped out. He didn't just want Megan scared. He wanted her gone one way or another. And the plan, it had 3 stages. Stage 1, scare Megan into getting back together with him. Stage 2, if that didn't work, scare her enough to leave town and not testify. 3. Stage 3, and if that failed, murder. Leon paid Taz $9,000 to kill her. But Taz, being ex-military and a man with a conscience, took the money and went straight to the authorities. He told them everything. What Megan didn't know yet was that her life had been hanging by a thread, and that her ex-boyfriend was willing to end it for his own career. With Taz's help, police formed a plan. They asked him to keep playing the role, keep recording conversations, keep Leon talking. If they were going to make a case, they needed Leon caught red-handed. And that's exactly what happened next. Taz, under police supervision, called Leon and said he wasn't the right man for the job, but he knew someone who was, a guy named Javier. Leon took the bait, and what he didn't realize was that Javier was actually an undercover police officer. Now here's where things go from disturbing to downright surreal. Leon didn't just want Megan taken care of anymore. On the call, he casually added that he had another problem too, Valerie's ex-husband, Mac. He wanted Mac dead as well. And according to Leon, Valerie was totally on board. Think about that. 2 successful professionals, a doctor and a veterinarian, were now plotting to kill their exes, as if it were just an inconvenience to be solved with money and a fake robbery. Soon after, Leon and Valerie met with Javier and Taz at an Olive Garden to talk murder, over soup and breadsticks. This is not a joke. During the conversation, Leon made it clear he didn't care how it got done. If Megan wouldn't leave town, you've got to do what you've got to do. As for Mac, Valerie was the one who spoke up. She said she wanted him shot in the head during a fake carjacking, just make it look like a robbery gone wrong. She even said, I for sure want to go through with this. I don't have any other option. That ex-husband of mine is threatening to take away my daughter and I won't stand for it. No hesitation, no fear. Just cold, deliberate planning. But what Leon and Valerie didn't know was that every word was being recorded, and every step was being watched. On March 9, 2017, undercover officer Javier showed up at Leon and Valerie's apartment. In his hand, photos of Valerie's ex-husband Mac, bloody, slumped over in his car, lying face down on the pavement. It was all fake, of course, the blood from a pig. Mac had already agreed to help police the moment he found out his ex-wife had put a hit out on him. But the photos worked. Valerie and Leon believed Mac was dead. One problem solved. That same night they received more photos, this time of Megan. Bound, gagged, terrified, the fear in her eyes was real. She had a panic attack during the staging, but she was alive, and she was also working with police. Now the trap was set. Early the next morning, 3 a.m. to be exact, police knocked on the couple's apartment door. They told Valerie that Mac had been found shot to death. She didn't react, not a gasp, not a tear, not even surprise, just a strange, flat stillness that made the officers take notice. Then Leon walked in. They told him the same thing. He awkwardly reached over to comfort Valerie and tried to look shocked. But then he made a classic mistake, one that gave the whole game away. He said, "We've been here all day watching movies." No one had asked him for an alibi. And just like that, the act crumbled. Police dropped the bomb. Mac and Megan were very much alive. They had staged everything. The photos, the texts, the meetups, every part of the murder plot had been recorded. Valerie was arrested. As she left her apartment in handcuffs, who was standing outside waiting, her ex-husband, Mac, the man she had tried to kill, he was there to take custody of their daughter. Leon, already facing charges for stalking and assault, was denied bail. Valerie, on the other hand, was released. But she had nowhere to hide. The press camped outside her apartment. Her vet license was suspended. She had lost her daughter. Her clinic, her future. She recorded a heartbreaking video diary on her iPad saying, "My home is like a prison. I have nobody, not even my daughter, to comfort me." And not long after that, Valerie said one final goodbye. By the time March 2017 came to an end, Valerie McDaniel was gone. Just days after her arrest, surrounded by cameras and reporters, unable to work, and completely cut off from her daughter, she climbed to the 7th floor of her high-rise apartment building and jumped. She left behind a community in shock. Her friends, her clients at the vet clinic, and even her neighbors couldn't believe it. This was a woman described as warm, intelligent, and kind, someone who loved animals, who had built a life for herself from the ground up. And yet, when faced with the consequences of her actions, she chose death over prison. Some say it was guilt. Others say it was fear. But many, especially those who knew her personally, believed that Leon Jacob had manipulated her into doing something completely out of character. That she wasn't evil, just broken, but that's something we'll never fully know. Meanwhile, Leon Jacob sat in jail waiting for his day in court, his behavior behind bars as arrogant and deluded as ever. In an interview, Leon actually said, "Prison isn't that bad, I was wrongly convicted. Valerie was the mastermind, not me. And if they ever make a movie about this, I hope Bradley Cooper plays me. I look like him." Seriously. He never showed remorse, never admitted guilt, not for the stalking, not for the abuse, not even for the murder plots. In his mind, he was the victim set up by police, betrayed by the women in his life, and unfairly painted as a monster. But the truth was about to catch up with him in front of a jury. On March 20th, 2018, Leon Jacob went on trial. He was charged with 2 counts of solicitation of capital murder, one for trying to have his ex-girlfriend Megan killed, and one for Valerie's ex-husband Mac. And since Valerie was no longer alive to testify, Leon's legal team tried to paint her as the mastermind. The defense argued that Leon was just along for the ride, that Valerie had dragged him into it, not the other way around. But prosecutors came prepared, and they had 2 key witnesses, Megan Varicas and Mac McDaniel. Megan took the stand first. She testified to everything, how Leon had stalked her, abused her, sent her threatening messages, and even hid in the bushes outside her home. She described how he slowly broke down her life, her career, her friendships, even her confidence. How he had charmed her at first, only to turn violent and manipulative. And how, if she hadn't spoken up, she might not be alive today. She called Leon a grade-A criminal who needed control over everything and everyone around him. And it was that need for control that made him dangerous. Then came Mac, the man Leon and Valerie had plotted to kill. He told the court how he had been contacted by police, warned that his life was in danger, and agreed to fake his own death for the sting operation. When asked about his relationship with Valerie, he admitted it had been rocky, even painful. But even he couldn't believe it had come to this. When Leon took the stand, he doubled down on the lies. He claimed he never asked anyone to kill Megan or Mac. That Javier, the undercover officer, had baited him into the conversations, that he was only trying to scare Megan into dropping her charges so he wouldn't lose his medical license. But prosecutors weren't buying it. They reminded the jury that Leon never once tried to stop the fake hit. When shown photos of Megan bound and gagged, he showed no hesitation. He didn't ask, "Is she okay?" He didn't say, "Please don't hurt her." He was satisfied. And when they played back the recordings of him casually discussing how he wanted both Megan and Mac taken care of, well, there was no talking his way out of that. Then, during sentencing, the prosecution made a powerful final move. They brought in Leon's ex-wife to testify. She described years of escalating abuse, the verbal attacks, the physical violence, and one moment that would stay with the jury forever. She was pregnant with one of their sons. They were arguing. He became violent, grabbed her by the head, and smashed her face into the kitchen counter. She raised her legs to protect her stomach as he started kicking her. She said, "He told me if I ever left him, he would kill me and no one would ever find my body. That as a doctor, he had access to chemicals that would dissolve me completely." It was horrifying and completely consistent with everything Megan had said. Everything Valerie had likely lived through too. The jury didn't need long. After just over an hour of deliberation, they came back with a guilty verdict on both counts of solicitation of capital murder. Leon Jacob was sentenced to life in prison. He won't be eligible for parole until 2047, at which point he'll be nearly 70 years. So what happens now? Megan Vericas has rebuilt her life stronger than ever. In her words, "I lost everything to him, my house, my friends, my career. But now, the girl he called poor and uneducated is the reason he will never be free again." While Mac McDaniel has custody of his daughter, he still grieves for the Valerie he knew, but he's moved on for her. And Leon, still in prison, still blaming everyone but himself. But there's one part of this story that doesn't get talked about much: the children. Leon's two sons, Valerie's daughters, they didn't have to stand trial. They weren't part of the assassination plot. But they're the ones who have to grow up with the consequences. Valerie's daughters will forever know that their mother fell from a 7th-floor balcony, pushed to despair by a plot that began with love and ended with betrayal. Leon's sons will grow up knowing that their father not only abused their mother, he tried to kill her. They are the silent victims of this tragedy. Innocent lives caught in a spiral of selfishness and control. So we are left with the question: was Valerie McDaniel a criminal or a manipulated woman trapped with no way out? Did she plan to kill on purpose? Or was she just another victim in Leon Jacobs' long, scandalous journey? In the end, it's up to you to decide. But one thing is clear: two people plotted a double murder, 2 lives nearly lost, and the 2 children will be scarred forever. If you found this case as shocking and heartbreaking as we did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts below. Was Valerie a victim or a villain? And what do you think drove Leon to such extreme